Hey guys, welcome back. It's the developer blog. I've been away this week. Hopefully the content's been good for you. Tried to do my best and make some videos whilst I was away. We're back now to do the developer blog. So the idea behind this is we have a listen into the devs, see what they're thinking. I give some thought. What I like to do is I like to produce the month's content and then you can support. So there's no Patreon. I just have a goal that I set and I try get that each month to help motivate me to do these videos and to help me be able to put as much time in as I do. So on screen is a content goal. There is 10 days left, so if you do want to support that content goal and help the videos keep flowing, I very much appreciate it. And I'm doing niche content inside a niche game, so it can be quite difficult. I will say though, we're almost at 10,000 subscribers, so if you watch these regularly or my content and you're not subscribed, please do and ring the bell. That way you get to see all of my videos. Now that the advertisements and the sort of speech is out of the way, back, let's get into the developer blog.
This week, we had kind of a what's up today. We had two huge posts actually today.
Ginormous.
Yeah, obviously we had the Operation 3 date announcement and what's going on there.
Yeah.
And we also had the movement slash like combat roadmap, trying to take along that path.
And a lot of them kind of go hand in hand. I think, you know, people are like, Operation 3 delay, let's talk about it.
You can see whilst I was away, I chatted about the combat and the movement recap. I had a video where I tried to play like a professional. Pretty funny. Everyone seemed to enjoy that. So if you like that type of stuff, do give it a thumbs up and let me know, because I do quite enjoy doing the funny videos. We reviewed the new shotgun, and also we had some viewer 1v1s. So I've covered a lot of these things, and I will say that a lot of people got upset or had some kind of negativity towards the fact there was a roadmap. The general consensus was, why do we have a roadmap for a game? That clearly indicates that the game isn't finished. But I will say that basically every single game has a roadmap these days. Their publishers tell them, yo, you need to get it out for this period. And then as a result, you have a roadmap, and the roadmap tells the players that are active, yo, stick with us because these are all the things we're doing. These are all the tweaks we're doing. There was a lot of comments about the fact that there's been a lot of balance videos which I've covered, and they were saying, you know, there's so much balance changing, it's getting a little bit hard to follow. So do stay tuned because I do keep you up to date. League of Legends, StarCraft, Dota, any multiplayer big game has relentless updates, and part of the skill of these modern games and part of games being a service is you have to keep up to date with all of these updates. Sometimes you'll load in your champion that all of a sudden could ult across the map. All of a sudden his ultimate doesn't reach across the map and he's a lot weaker. And then because he's a lot weaker, another champion becomes viable. And because that champion's viable, his counter now becomes viable. So one tweak can change a lot. All of a sudden the shotgun poke being drastically different can change a lot in the game. And people have to adapt. And part of games being a live service is constantly basically the developers keeping the game fresh, keeping it up to date, keeping it, you know, balanced or attempting to balance it. And as a result, things do get changed. There are some patches that are out of whack. There are some hotfixes that are out of whack, and it's sort of your job to keep up to date with it. And I'm trying to help you out and keep you up to date so you don't have to do that. But yeah, I would just say that not sort of a game having a roadmap is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I was very impressed that they had a roadmap, because to me it indicates that they've got a plan. When people say Operation 3's been delayed, it's been delayed to fix a lot of core things. Necessarily think that's a bad thing. Operation 3 is probably just going to be skins, characters, maybe a game mode, maybe a map, but it's not going to drastically alter the game. The roadmap and the mechanics will do that. The operations are just like splashes of colour that are meant to like excite you and get you back into the game, and then the roadmap is like the path they're following. You know, if you were to do a visual sort of idea, you've got a canvas and you've got your road, and that road is the roadmap. That's where you're going from A to B, and along the way you're walking along that roadmap, it's a pretty long roadmap. It might take 6 months or a year or 3 months or 4 months, and along the way, to keep players interested, splashes of colours, trees, ponds get filled in left and right, and that is the operations and the patches and the shop, and that's kind of how these games work these days. That's quite a visual metaphor. I'm quite proud of that one.
We've done some work on the movement. We've done some work on our ranked. We have resolved a bunch of like not long-standing, but critical bugs that we've had that you guys were feeding back on. And at the same time, we also have a few more both client and server-side updates that are planned over the next
Yep.
over the next before OP3 starts. One of the things we heard from y'all was that you guys were frustrated about the current state of the game.
Yeah.
Whether it was ranked or whether it was movement or whether it was the Nasher or whatever it is, there was a lot of things inside of there that you guys were like, we don't feel great about this. Priority issue for us.
Matchmaking as well.
Matchmaking, improving matchmaking. So all of these things we wanted to go through, and we prioritized getting that done. And as part of doing that, we were like, let's move out the operation a few weeks to set up the stage so we would fundamentally have the team focus on all of these like unresolved issues and hot fixes and quality of life improvements.
What I'll say about that is they're right. There are a lot of key issues with the game. And I will say, personally, I know I do a lot of balance videos, twitch.tv/GGZII. Subscribe. I don't think balance ultimately is going to save the game. Listen, you could make the most perfect, most balanced game of all time. Are millions of people, are hundreds of thousands, even tens of thousands of people going to come back and play Gears of War 5, or Gears 5 should I say, because the Nasher poke range is feeling good, or the up A speed boost has been changed? No. Most people just want a simple game that they load up, it works, and they have fun in. And then if they're having a lot of fun, then they can step into competitive, then they can talk balance and so on and so forth. If they released Operation 3, and then some people come back, and they come back into the game, and they load in, and disconnects are happening, core issues, wrong ping, wrong server, etc., no points awarded, then they'll just go, oh, doesn't really matter that there's a new character, like, it doesn't really bother me, the core game's broken, I'm going to leave. Now, if they spend a few weeks doing quality of life changes, fixing bugs and issues, and then Operation 3 comes out on top, people will be like, wow, like the game's feeling damn good, and now we've got content on top. That's how it should be. The core game should be, your foundation should be good, and then you sprinkle the content on top. Now, I think what matters is, sometimes I'm placed on the wrong server. Now, that might be a player base issue. If it's a player base issue, just alert the user. Just say to the user, listen, there's not many people in your region. Do you want us to expand the search? Now, that might be a big system to implement, so maybe they can't do that. So maybe they just say, hey, listen, the player base is a bit small at this time of night for a PC EU player. We've now expanded the search. I think just giving people information just makes people feel a lot better, because they know what's going on, right? I think a lot of people on the Gears of War sort of comments and the Gears of War feedback, they don't really know what's going on. I see people say to me all the time, like, yeah, I'm really enjoying the game now that they've made the gib range a bit bigger. A lot of like technical terms, and I feel like a lot of people don't. For example, I'm drowsy here. I'm always getting 80 to 90% in gib range. Or maybe I'm missing shots. Well, if you were in the gib range and you landed your shot, they'd be dead, because that is gib range. So you're just outside of the gib range. I guess what I'm trying to say is it must be very difficult, because there's a lot of technical terms in Gears, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of people that are experiencing Gears of War as a live service for the very first time, and they're not really understanding why updates are happening and why content's been released 3-month cycles, etc. I think they're probably thinking the game's not done and they're giving us this content every 3, as opposed to they're trying to keep the game alive by bringing out content every 3 months, because they were probably rushed by a publisher and they've decided to go with that cycle.
The studio is really committed to, we're taking very seriously what people feel. Like, every week we kind of get the same pain points talked to us over and over again. We feel it as players. We see it online from what you're saying. We watch you on streams to see you like feeling the same moments. Yeah. And the studio had kind of a moment where we're kind of like, look, we can keep doing this piecemeal, or we can really focus in on it, and we can like make this commitment to deliver these improvements as quickly as possible. Because at the end of the day, we can deliver whatever content we want, but if the core experience isn't necessarily as good as it should be, then, you know, there's only so much it's going to make you feel better on having some content.
How does it mean that's the last thing that we're doing? We have things that are going. I'm going to give ranked as a good example.
Yeah.
So some of the ranked stuff in there, you know, what we were hearing from people was, it's frustrating. I win. I don't want to go down if I've won.
Yeah.
So we rebalanced that. It's inside of our in the blog that we put out last week that talks about kind of how we've adjusted the scores so that you're not going to be going down on a win, even though you maybe didn't perform as well as the game.
Liam and Dana, they're saying it. What I like to hear is basically, it doesn't matter. Like, I know everyone in chat is spamming, we want maps, we want 8-bullet shotgun, we want skins, I want master skins, I want to remove aim assist. I want to remove aim assist in ranked. But the fact of the matter is, it is a niche argument. I know it shouldn't be. I know having an aim assist inside of ranked play is idiotic. For me personally, it's really annoying. But I understand it's a niche thing. And maps might not be a niche thing. Maps might seem like the saviour. Let's say tomorrow 10 new maps came out, right? 10 new maps. That would keep you going, right? But if it was 10 new maps and you're constantly disconnecting, you're playing on 150 ping, the shotgun's shooting through people, you know, every time you win a game you go down in points. It doesn't matter what content they bring out. If you were playing on Mansion as regular Cole and all of those issues were happening, you'd still be annoyed. Look, the ranking system isn't perfect, but on a very core level, it's very simple. If you win a game, you will not go down in points ever. So, forget everything that you've been doing and just win the game. That's what it is. It's ranked. It's all about the win. A bit like League of Legends. If I go 0-50 and I play like ass, but I win every single game I play, I would be the best player in the world on the ladder. Now, some might say, whoa, that's ridiculous. Your individual performance should matter a lot. But there is an art to getting carried, and it depends what you believe performance is. I've played some games of GGZII where I've had a guy that's just been goddamn awful. He can't aim, he can't shoot, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he relentlessly runs in and breaks the hill, and he gets a couple captures, and that allows me to produce some plays and win the game. I've had somebody that's got a load of kills, but he never ever touches the ring, and we just instantly lose because he's never there. So, I know ranked isn't perfect. It's completely not perfect in any way, trust me. Like, if you watch me on stream, I get annoyed at it. But if you win the game, that's basically the fundamental. Nowadays, when somebody misses a gib, it's almost a guaranteed kill, which just, again, feels bad, because when you're just delaying the inevitable at that point. Instead of getting gibbed, you're now just getting gibbed and then tapped down. But all those issues don't really matter. It's about the core game, and personally I'm pleased to see that they're working on it. I know I'm talking a lot, but I've had a lot to say. You know, I haven't made any videos in like a week, kind of, so I've been interested to see what they think, because there's been a load of changes. It's interesting to read the community all asking about maps and characters, but I do believe that even if they brought out all the maps and characters, you'd all still be annoyed if the core game wasn't fixed. Fixing the core game might be boring. Sitting and listening to these guys talk about the range, the matchmaking, fidelity, whatever they want to talk about, that might be boring. But ultimately, they're doing it to fix it. And if it's not fixed, again, if they brought out Operation 3 and had tons of content, but everything was still broken, it wouldn't be fun.
Also recognize that it's a little unclear what that performance looks like inside of the game. So the team is working on ways to better communicate that information out inside of the game, so people are like, oh, I get kind of what I was supposed to do inside of that, in that ranked moment. We're working on improving our ranked matchmaking experience so that teams are combined with a more consistent quality of player on each team. So it doesn't feel like you're having to carry someone who maybe is a little outside of that range, or, you know, in the case of me, sometimes I'm like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't be in this group right now.
So a lot of it as well is, listen, they can't say it, but I do believe in an ideal world, they'd have a really tight matchmaking system. Silvers can only play silvers, golds can only play golds, etc, etc. You know, a gold player can only queue with one above, like an Onyx player, or a silver player, so there's a small range of games and the quality is good. But the reality is, this game doesn't have the player base of League of Legends. It can't have that much of a refined matchmaking system. There is also no queue restrictions. You can stack 5-man and play ranked. Personally, I think 3-man should be the most in ranked in an ideal world. But no, not in Gears 5. In Gears 5, yeah, you should be able to group up with your friends if you want. The ranking system honestly doesn't really bother me too much. And I feel like unless the restrictions were really, really tight, that's when I'd care about my rank. If the restrictions are in place, you can only duo queue. You can only play with one rank higher or lower. Then all of a sudden you'd start playing because you'd know deep down like, wow, if I actually got to Masters, I'd be playing only with, you know, Diamonds and Onyx players, and the games would be really sweaty and there'd be really high level play, right? Or maybe that sounds horrendous to you, you know? And that way, if that sounds really horrendous, then customs could be more popular. Right now, I feel like there's a... I don't know how to word it. I feel like there's no respect for the ranking system because there isn't a tight enough restriction on it. But I understand why there isn't a tight enough restriction. There can't be one. Again, ideal world. Super tight ranking system where everybody's like one rank within each other and everyone's sweating and your rank means a lot and you get skins for it. If you don't want to play that super sweat mode, or you want to group up with your friends, or you just want to chill out and play a regular game that's not high level 10, 5v5 sweat lords, then you play a custom game and people host customs, and all of the other playlists that are filling up the screen with garbage, they're all gone and people host customs. But that's an ideal world. Custom games, big community, fun, or super tight-knit matchmaking sweat. Right now, your choice is play ranked and kind of care about it, but it's still kind of broken because everyone can play with anyone, or play like versus bots, right? So I understand people's frustration. I'm just saying, I don't believe they can do it because there isn't a big player base. So how do you get a big player base? You make the core game really good and then slowly build it up from there, right? Maybe it wouldn't happen in Gears 5. Maybe Gears 5, at the end of its life, is such a sick core game. Then Gears 6 comes out, it carries over that core game, and boom, like everyone's loving it. Like, but you've got to build, it takes time to build it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have, we basically have sit down and we listen to you guys all the time. We, we're present in the forums, we're present on Reddit, we're on social, we're all of these places here. We have listening tools that tell us kind of what are the top things that people are talking about. We have in-game data that talks about what people play, so we can look at what is their experience inside of the game based on a variety of aspects and such. So those are... Taking all of that into consideration is how we've went down and prioritized what are the things that we want to work on right now. And like I said, if our list is X long, we just picked this part of it because we knew that this was the most critical part. But we still have this list behind it of stuff that we're working on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and like some obviously features are bigger than others, so they'll take a little bit more time. And but I'm excited by some of the stuff in Op 3. I think one of the things I'll say is that some of the plans we have to address some of the feedback, some of that's been in development quite a while, is going to be probably surprising, some of the stuff we're going to tackle in there. You guys will be the judge on
well, I think a good example is like that community service thing that we've talked about for quitters. That's something that we are trying really hard to get. That nice shot didn't hit anything anywhere.
I hit that air good.
Take that, Narnia.
I didn't even hit the wardrobe.
That's something that we think is going to be a really strong deterrent for quitters and managing that process. But that's a pretty big piece of feature work. And
so just to touch on that, if you haven't been following the dev blogs, subscribe so you are following. But if you haven't been following, basically the sort of way they're going to deal with quitters is like, listen, rather than just quitting out of the game and getting banned for like an hour, people will just turn off their Xbox and say, okay, my hour's up, I'll play again. They're going to have to do a certain list of things. These list of things, I don't know what they're going to be, but I can speculate that they're probably going to be win 5 games, play 5 games, get 50 assists inside of a player match, do basically do useful things, and they're going to be simple tasks that help the team win that you're on. So if you've quit the game, you're going to have to go in, do your mileage, play some games, win some games, and hopefully it's annoying enough that, you know, people think to themselves, I don't want to go through that again, I won't quit next time, but not so annoying that they just think I'm never playing this game again, right? Because that could happen. If you accidentally quit out of a game or your internet disconnected, and then it said win 100 games before you can play ranked, people would just quit. Obviously, it's not going to be that strict. I'm just saying, hopefully it's like a balance. It's going to take time, isn't it? And I sound like a developer, but I'm not. And I'm not trying to, you know, just be nice to TC just to be nice sake. I'm just saying, if you did quit out of a game, you're not going to be aware that these tools and systems are in place, right? So when somebody first quits out, they might just quit out and turn their Xbox off. And then they might see the notification, hey, you quit, you need to do this, and then they might think, oh, I'll do it, and then they'll quit again. But maybe after 2 or 3 times, they'll think to themselves, all right, this is getting annoying, I'm not quitting again. You know, you're not going to implement a quit sort of penalty and it instantly solve quitting overnight. So when this penalty goes live, you're probably going to have to wait like a few weeks to see, is it really affecting the game?
The Nasher is damn near perfect, Liam.
Yeah,
Are you guys going to increase the chunk range? I know you see people talking about how annoying it is right now. So we just made an adjustment today, and we put an update out, and we put out our blog that talks about the range of where we are with the chunk. And one of the things that we like about the way that the Nasher works in conjunction with the speed of where the game is we feel like we saw a lot of people playing for one shot. And so with that increase, the little slight increase in the poke damage, and managing that, we wanted to, and with the strafe speed, we wanted to make more nuanced gunfights that rewarded skill of people that knew how to hit their shots as well as had to move and didn't just head down and rush at people. Having an increased chunk range, we feel, is something that could reward that head down. I'm going to call it playing like Liam. Is it going to be like this forever? I don't want to ever say forever.
Well, I mean...
But right now we're happy with where it's at. And we want to see a lot of the other... there's a lot of stuff in progress on that roadmap.
So, looks like the Gib range is staying the way it is. I think I can live with that. Listen, it might be a pixel or two too big for my liking, but I'm not here to be picky. It's pretty good. You're no longer getting absolutely cannoned across the map. Sometimes I feel like you still do. But that's probably more to do with server latency and positioning rather than actual Gib range. Literally my only sort of note about the shotgun is if I bring up paint to give you a visual explanation. Let's say this is player 1 and I'm player 2. Oh, for my personal take on the game, I feel like there's like a gambling aspect, right? You can sit at this range and land 3 shots or 2 massive shots and down him, right? And that's it. If you don't want to do that, you then move in for the Gib. And you then move into the Gib range and you make your movement and then you shoot and you land your pellets and the guy dies. You might have even, along the way of this fight, you might have even taken a bit of damage, right? Strike 1 through you, you're pretty red. And as you've moved up, you've closed that gap, you've then shot, and bada boom, he's now dead, and then you run off and you regen. I feel like when somebody goes in for that Gib, like, instead of it being like here and then misjudging the Gib and they shoot here, I feel like this distance of a missed Gib is too rewarding, and it becomes like the player has like, you know, me here, say this is player A. I feel like when player B shoots from here and slightly misjudges the Gib, player A is left with like 5% HP, and any sort of clipped shot from player B again, or maybe some stray Lancer fire coming in and he goes down. Personally, I think that if you miss a Gib, it should be like you chose to run in and try blow me up. You should not be doing that much. I feel like if you shoot from this range and you miss the Gib, it should be doing like 65, like 65-ish maybe you could crank that number up so it doesn't feel awful. Right now, I feel like this player B, can steam in, misjudge the gib, and put them so red that it can be a bit off-putting. You know, I just feel like that misjudging of the gib is a massive thing in Gears. It's like what makes the game skilled. You're either landing multiple shots or you've learnt the range or predicted a slide, and then you know, right, he's going to slide from here to here, and I know my gib range, so he's going to blow up when I shoot. That's like the skill. Whereas it's ever so slightly too rewarding to miss a gib shot, in my opinion. So I would just bring that in a bit, but that's my personal little thing that I think most people probably don't care about.
Alrighty, there we go. Shotgun is good, focus on content. As of today, the Nasher needs to be left alone.
I mean, the general intention, there's some stuff we're still planning to do with it, including, for example, one of the things we'll talk about in more detail is like how we calculate gib range.
Yeah.
And there's actually a change coming to that for consistency.
Yeah.
There's a change coming to that for consistency. Oh God, I'm doing that in my own. Oh no, it's okay.
I'm really worried. Whenever the team talks about gib range, I get really worried because I feel like you got to understand that the gib range and the missing of the gib is literally Gears of War. Like, that's what enables you to get in close. When somebody pushes you and misjudges that gib, that's your window of, ha, you completely misjudged that. Now I'm going to absolutely roll sideways, poke you, down you. I'm going to return a gib on you, step in, blow you up. Again, right now I feel it's ever so slightly too rewarding to miss a gib. I'd be very nervous about increasing the gib range at all. I wouldn't touch it. I would back off the missed gib range damage, personally.
Versus the 8, we feel like it rewards people for the smart play and doing the right things that way.
Yeah, one of the things are, sorry if you are joining us and your ping's high. Obviously, we are obviously based in Vancouver, so if you join a private lobby, your ping, and you're not like near us, your ping might be high, so apologies for that. Excellent. Oh, God. So one of the things like one of our lead gameplay designers talked about to me that I thought was pretty interesting around the 6 versus 8 is that one of the ways we're hoping the skill gap is kind of being there with the 6 is that it's about when you go for your reload, right? Like, as part of your movement, as part of your evasion, it's about what shots you take and what shots you don't, and knowing when to kind of back away a little bit and take the reload.
Yeah.
And the skill is meant to be in when you go for that, not just like, I've run out of bullets.
It's also like making somebody miss, right? Like if I go and I made you miss 2 shots, then I know kind of where you are. I want to pay attention to your fight as well as my fight.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's one of my, personally, one of my favorite moments in Gears is when I'm in a fight and I bait people's shots and I manage to like get them to waste, they fired a couple into another person and I get to bait 4 shots and then I can just fly at them. Yeah. That personally is one of my favorite moments, but like,
I'm personally not that bothered about 6 and 8 bullets. I think 6 bullets is fine. I think 8 bullets is fine. There's really not a wild amount of difference. It really depends on your playstyle. There's basically 2 lines of thinking. 6 is technically more skilled, and it feels damn good when you pull off, like, say, 4 one-shots because you've properly judged everything. You haven't wasted shots. Your movement has allowed you to bring in close. You haven't been spraying shots, and it feels good. Sometimes, you run out of bullets, and it feels bad because you're trying to go ham, right? So you could look at it and say, 8 bullets would allow me to maybe pop off a bit more and have those big fun moments, which we all play Gears for. And, that would keep me playing a little bit longer because it's way more exciting to pop off and kill 5 people, isn't it, and not have to reload, than it is to kill 3 people, back off, reload, kill 2 people. It just depends on your personal take. I can understand why people argue for 8, and I can understand why TC is sticking with 6. I personally just think it just comes down to like what you like, doesn't it? You could say 7, but then if you make it 7, it doesn't really change it drastically towards 8. It's not. You're not suddenly gonna 1v5 with 7 bullets as opposed to 6, but you might not be able to sort of make people miss as much because 7 bullets is quite a lot. I'm not too sort of... I don't have a strong stance on that. It's okay, whatever they choose to do, they choose to do.
That explains it for you.
Okay. We need more maps ASAP. At least 3 for Versus and Horde, not counting FFA maps. What's your response to this? I'm guessing you like maps. We hear you. Sorry, I'm just being cheeky. No, we hear you that you guys want maps. That is something that that has been fed up. Keep in mind that it takes a long time to make maps in terms of sort of design and testing and arting and various things like that. We've talked about this before. Around 6 months is a good frame of reference for how long it takes to make a map. So that's something that we're looking at. We hear the desire for increased variety and more maps. It's funny though, because we also hear from you guys that we want new maps, we want old maps. I don't care about new maps, just give me river or whatever it is. So there's that balance of like, is it a new map, is it an old map, how do we go?
So just to touch on this, we could say it's been almost 6 months since Gears of War has launched. So if they set multiple teams up to make multiple maps, they could have had, so let's say they had 2 teams working on maps. They probably could have had like 3 or 4 maps out. Now, the thing is, they're saying, again, it takes a long time. It takes 6 months because they've got to do all the testing and all of this. They've got to make sure it works well as a map, You can't just build a map and then ship it. You've got to make sure it actually plays well. And that was my argument, was how can an older map, and this is because I don't know the development process. I've never worked in a game studio. I'd love to, but I've never worked in one. How is the process? Because to me, if I built a brand new Gears 5 map, let's say All Father's Garden, right? I've got to test out those like 27 variants and make sure they actually play well. Oh, the 26th variant didn't work as well. Let's tweak where that block position is. That probably takes a long time. I get that. But if you're remaking a map, maybe it does take a long time to remake, say, Canals, River, whatever you want to remake. Maybe it does take a long time to remake that map, but you don't have to do any testing on it. Just place the weapons, and that can be done really quickly, figuring out weapons on a map. But you don't have to test any of the gameplay flow. Should this cover be a climb cover? Should this cover be a swap cover? Can I roadie run around it, etc.? You don't have to do any of that because the old maps already exist with all that information already tested and worked out. So surely an older map cannot take as long as a new map, purely based on the fact that it doesn't need as much testing. That was all I was thinking. I'd like to see some... Personally, the way Gears 5 is, if you brought out a Gears 1 map on Gears 5, it would probably play like shit, let's be honest. So I'd personally rather see them make some more new maps. Like, I've played Gears for a long time. I want to see new maps. Honestly, look, I know people buzz off Gridlock, and I know people love the old maps. I do too. I'd be very happy and excited if they said we're making Gridlock, and we're making Canals, Clock Tower, Pavilion, Jacinto, whatever, right? Whatever map you want. But I'd also be equally excited if they said we're making 3 brand new maps, because I do like new content.
Just from an existing match,
for sure, it takes
like
less time.
let's use Forge here. Like in the middle bit there where nades are. Like, I'm not saying that is a 2v2 map, but you could easily see that being a 2v2 map, where people could move inside of that. Something like that would take a lot less time to make versus if we wanted to go and have a custom 2v2 map, as an example.
Yeah, that is hard.
So it is a bit different. You guys gave us 2 maps every month for a year on Gears 4, though. Well, so yes. Now,
but I mean, that was not seen as a positive point in general.
yeah, but you guys let's also keep in mind
how many were
Harbor
new?
and Harbor
6?
Haze. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 6 were like from scratch new and not either revamps or remasters.
Yeah. So there's that part of
This is an interesting take. You had a ton of maps in Gears 4. Self-confession, never really played much Gears 4 because it just didn't work on my PC until the very end of its lifespan, so I don't know how this development cycle of Gears 4 went. But they said that it wasn't seen as a positive, that there was a lot of maps. And I can see that. I can see why somebody would say that. Oh, there's loads of these maps, I don't enjoy them, they keep cropping up on the vote thing, I don't like them. But that is, again, one of my points and why I hate goddamn matchmaking systems. Is because if everything was just custom and you got rewarded for playing customs, or there was just a few set good maps inside of ranked, like I feel like, I don't know if anyone remembers the old days, Gears 1, you would have the MLG maps, the 6 MLG maps, that's what you'd play on, or the game battles maps for, like, you know, Gears 3 or whatever you wanted to play, right? Those were like the good maps, whereas I feel like ranked has an issue now where every map is in ranked. And some maps are just straight garbage. Now, there is the other issue that probably every map needs to be in ranked for Gears 5 because there aren't enough maps. But on Gears 4, if people were saying, oh, it sucks that there's so many maps, that's probably because there were so many maps they could never get their favourite map. But if it was a custom game and you could host the map you enjoy, and get ranked points for it, think how good that would be, like the Gears 1 system. That's what I'm saying, like that's why it was so good. You could spend the entire evening playing the map you want. And partly one of the reasons why I get bugged in Gears 5 is, for one, they've got maps on there I never want to play, I'll never vote for them. 2, there's a lack of maps, so they have to be in there. And yeah, again, you just get stuck playing sometimes rubbishy maps, and sometimes you just want to sit back. You want to think, oh, I'm going to play some Gears 5 tonight, and I'm like, hey, I want to play Reclaimed all evening. Oh, I want to play, you know, whatever map it is you want to play all evening, and you can't do that. And you're at the mercy of the matchmaking system where some people don't vote, some people do vote. You come up against a stacked team that all vote training grounds. That can be a thing. I could stack 5 people and vote training grounds and just cross rifle everyone, and you'd never win. I don't feel like that experience existed on Gears 5 or on Gears 1, and because you just couldn't do that type of thing. It was so hard to stack a team and do that kind of gameplay. But yeah, maybe those days have gone. Maybe I'm just a boomer that's reminiscing, but I do think that the game needs a hell of a lot more maps, and when it's got a lot more maps, they need to narrow down what is actually, quote, a ranked map. Not every map is ranked, surely, but
available inside of the game in terms of content that's inside of the tour, content that's inside of supply, content that's inside of the store, and various things like that. There is a lot of other content that the team is working on.
Yeah, I think, like, and this is something that is no fault of anyone, like the community in any way, but like, for example, the FFA maps, you know, one of the things we've heard is, oh, they're just tile maps, right? And actually those maps took a lot of work. So you get a combination of tiles, some of them were custom designed for that. To build those maps took a ton of testing, a ton of revision, especially because we'd never done, 14-player FFA maps. So even sometimes when things don't appear to be much work, they actually
you have to get the rotations down.
Like we were playtesting those for a long time.
You got to figure out the web.
So I think that's like something maybe I could help out with. I think for the team, people aren't saying, yo, these FFA maps are just made with tiles, because I've said that. I've said, oh, these maps are just tile maps. We've waited like 6 months for tile maps. What we're saying is it just feels a bit rubbishy, because sometimes you wait a long time for maps. And if you play a lot of Escape, you've seen all of these tiles before. And yeah, they've been combined and rotated in a nice, interesting way. But visually, it's still tiles. So you feel, even though it's a completely different map, you feel like you've done this before and it gets old quick. Now, if you've never played Escape, you probably just load into that map and go, wow. But when I loaded into it, I was like, oh, this is this corner coming up. This is where you turn this. You know what I mean? Now, there were some custom tiles in there, like he said. But I think that's what people are saying. That they're saying, like, it just feels lazy. And I'm not saying you are lazy. I'm saying that's what it's coming across as. It came across as, oh, it's tiles. It wasn't even like visually that much different or anything like that. Whereas I think when you remaster an old map or you make a new map, even though it takes just as much work as tile work, it comes across as, oh, this, like All Fathers, to me, seemed like it had way more effort put into it than the free-for-all maps, but that definitely probably isn't the case, right? But that's the way it comes across because it's new, it looks different, or it's a remaster. That's how I would spin that. I've been speaking for an hour and we're only half an hour in, so we're probably gonna really cut my own commentary down and just get the key bits of information now for you, because I've been speaking for a while. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, do thumbs up, do subscribe and comment. It helps me out in the algorithm and it helps my channel out immensely because it is a absolute niche channel, so any help you can give me is of a huge bonus, and it just helps me put as much time in as I do. So let's speed this up. Let's do some quick fire comments and questions.
Yeah, I think like the thing you have to remember is we're servicing 3 distinct modes, right? And that's the challenge, and that's a new challenge for us especially, is like, you know.
Again, quick fire. This is what I've been saying. Gears of War 5 is not just a shooting game anymore. It's not a multiplayer shooting game. It's got a massive horde community. It now has a massive escape community. It also has this open world aspect of the campaign that people will want expanding, and it's got multiplayer. So when a new game comes out or the new mode comes out, they have to think of, right, does it want to be campaign DLC? Can we do anything different? No, right? Do the horde players need a ton new skills, requirements, cards, objectives, things to do, maps, different enemies to fight, an event mode? Do the horde players need something? Okay, right. Do the escape players want new tiles to create their own maps? Do they want new hives? Do they want different difficulties? What modifiers should it have? Should there be free-for-all base maps for the free-for-all players? Do the arcade players need characters and skins? Or do the regular Joes that play multiplayer, Execution and King of the Hill and Team Deathmatch need maps? This is what I was saying. There's so much content in Gears 5 that they've almost put themselves in such an sort of unwinnable situation. If they brought out 10 horde maps and 10 new character classes, people would go, that's great, but you spent 6 months working on horde and I don't play horde. So this is what I've always said. I don't know if Gears of War 5 can be fixed, because there's always going to be a portion of the community that's unhappy. There's basically 2 ways to solve it. You make such a massive team and such a massive amount of money that you just get every piece of content going. Or you have to cut some content, like, right, we can't do horde this month, we can't do this month. Or in Gears 6 you say, listen, right, people are bored of horde, we're going to have to cut it. Escape was cool, we're going to have to cut it. You know, people don't really play arcade mode, we're going to have to cut it. They're going to have to chop something out, because I don't think it's, like they're saying, it's just not really sustainable.
Well, but TDM with execution rules, I guess, is just a longer version of Execution or Warzone, I guess. Or
well, respawning Execution.
Yeah, it'd be a respawning Execution.
I mean,
it might be an interesting special event, actually.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, who knows? I will say that TDM is generally is generally played. Like the majority of the players in that playlist tend to be a slightly lower skill level. That's not to say if you play TDM, I'm saying you suck. I'm saying it's.
Listen, it's true. If you play Team Deathmatch, you're fucking casual. Look, let's just not beat around the bush. I'm sorry, TDM players. It's a tragic game mode. It shouldn't be in Gears of War. It is shocking. Let's just delete it. Just comment below if you'd just like to see Team Deathmatch deleted from the game, because I'd love that.
It incorporates a couple of things. Where you are in relation to rings, where you are in relation to other people on the map. So I think this has been something that the team has been working on for a very long time. And when I say a very long time, I want to go back to Gears 4. I wasn't really here for UE, so I can't speak to UE. You probably could speak to that better than I could in terms of respawns on.
I mean, it was kind of the same as 4.
Yeah, so it's something that we're trying our hardest to make a better experience. We've heard that, but if you figure you've got people flanked across the thing, you don't want to have people spawn. And I know everyone's like, but I was spawned and someone was behind me or something like that. I understand that that can happen, and I'm not making fun of you. I'm just using.
I don't know about respawns in King of the Hill. All I'll say is, If they made it really consistent, I guess there's a couple things that could happen. Halo had really consistent spawns, and you could literally spawn trap people into a... Like, I always think of the map with the 2 lifts going up either side, and it was like a grey-brown map, and you could like plasma people that came out of like the back lift. I can't think of the name. Someone might know what I'm on about. You could always shoot down on territories or MLG King of the Hill because you knew they were going to spawn there. I don't know if Gears wants to be a spawn trapping game or if it wants to be hectic, or if it's more consistent. I guess the danger is the more consistent it becomes, the more abusable it becomes because you could shift people around. Now, maybe that's some high-level strategy, but again, it's a tightrope in it that you've got to walk. Do they want it? I think sometimes you get screwed because the team spawns near a hill and you just lose, and that absolutely sucks. But if you set the spawns or you make them more consistent, you could then trap them and force them to spawn away, force people to spawn alone and gang up on him. It could be abusable, couldn't it? So I don't know about that.
So someone else, is there a fix to permanently flash? Yes, I believe it's currently targeted for one of our hotfixes before Op 3. As is the hit marker for flashbang hit markers.
Yeah, we don't have a date for that one just yet, but that's one of the ones that we have.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're going to do a hotfix to make it so when you throw flashbang, it only gives you a hit marker when someone's flashed. This is something that I've seen all the pros spamming about. Honestly, it's just one of those things that confuses me. I feel like flashbangs are obnoxious as hell, and they're only there because the setups are so strong that you need something like a flashbang to break them. So rather than keep buffing the flashbang, why not fix the fact that you need a flashbang in the first place and then get rid of the flashbang? Because the flashbang's already super powerful and obnoxious, and you spawn with it and you can throw it every single time. Sometimes someone throws a flashbang, you're in the general area, they receive a hit marker because it's been in the general area, sort of alerting you to the fact there's a player in there, and then they push in, I haven't been flashed, and I kill them. That's like the only downside to the flashbang, is the fact that, to me, the flashbang hit marker, you lob it in there and it's alerting you to, yo, there are people in there. But what they're now making it is, bang, this guy's flashed, go in. So there's never going to be that guessing game. So some people will say, well, guessing's bad. Well, should you be relying on a flashbang every single time? That probably is going to up the amount of flashbangs, and honestly, I cannot stand the flashbang in King of the Hill. This happens to me a lot. Yesterday I spawned right next to somebody, and it wasn't the fact I spawned next to him that annoyed me, because that can happen. It was, I really wanted to wait for his spawn protection, and I waited like what I felt was like 3 seconds, and then I shot and I still got spawn protection, and then he killed me. So this guy Gardrock, asks, you know, is there a glow or a visual effect for people with spawn protection?
Glow or other visual effects for players with spawn protection. We've talked about that, and I think it's a really good
Everyone's
idea.
on board with it.
Yeah,
like it's just
a pry.
time.
That in our pry 1, pry 2, pry 3 list, that's a lower pry right now as we're looking to improve overall game health.
So it's low priority, which means it probably won't really ever get done. Okay, so this question is coming in about cheating. Now, I don't know about this thing. I had to Google it. It's called, and don't do this because you'll be banned, it's called a Cronus Max. And apparently, this like lets you play the game without playing the game, or something along those lines. And Dana said that, yeah, basically, if you use the Cronus Max to like idle in games so you don't get kicked, or basically cheat in escape mode, you're going to get banned here. It says, what is TC's stance on the players using the Cronus Max to run escape without getting the idle kick and get the... So basically they're sitting in the game idle in XP matchmaking, never getting kicked because they're never idle. And he just basically says, you know, why are you doing that? If the game isn't fun to you, don't play it. And, you know, games are meant to be fun. And that's my whole thing. Like, that's why I like doing these long form videos. I know they're really, really niche. Again, if you enjoy me sat here speaking for 2 hours, 55 minutes almost, and then cutting it up and giving you like an interesting idea of what's going on, please do support and comment and like, and if you can go a step further to support the content goal, it helps a ton, because trying to make niche content inside a niche game is difficult, but I do really enjoy doing it because I think games should be fun, and my channel isn't to bash the game or like anything like that. I do think that Gears 5 could be a really fun game, and I hope that I'm doing something useful in making it more fun. And when people like feel that a game is so unfun that they want to sit and idle for XP, that's like, man, I don't get that mentality. Like, if I've always played a game for fun, I stopped playing Gears 5 through like just before December period because I really wasn't enjoying it. Now I'm enjoying it a bit more, so I'm going to play it a bit more. I feel like you've got to enjoy the game, and if you're not enjoying it, don't play it.
Dutchy, thanks for stopping by. Can you please share how many players there are on average in US, EU, LATAM, etc.? I understand why you asked that question, but from a whole competitive standpoint, we don't talk about our game player population, and as you can see, I can't think of any other. Oh, nice, Blindy. I can't think of any other game, and I could be wrong, that talks a lot about their gameplay population in today's current world. So I get why you're asking that, but it's not something that we share.
So the reason I don't believe they share their player population, and people will laugh at that and go, oh, they're not sharing it because it's dead. Well, that might be true, but League of Legends doesn't actively say how many players it's got. Very few games show inside their playlists what volume of players are in there, because it just basically compiles the issue. If you loaded into Gears and it said King of the Hill had 100 people and Team Deathmatch had 1,000, people are going to play Team Deathmatch, and then slowly and surely the other game modes die. I'm not against them hiding their player base figures. I'm really not. I don't really have a problem with them hiding their player base figures at all. Alright, well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm going to go ahead and edit this and everything. Take it easy. Hopefully this video will get me to 10,000 subscribers. Subscribe, tell your friends. Share, like, comment, all that good stuff. Path of Exile is announcing their new league in a few days, so that might take my interest from Gears away in a couple of months, but I do still need to finish Resident Evil 2, and I do need to try play some more ranked Gears 5, so that's what will be happening on my stream if you're interested. Thanks very much for watching.